I grew up under cameras and control, so I finally stopped talking to my parents. I'm currently typing this on a burner phone that's hidden inside a cutout compartment in an old textbook. If you saw the way I'm living right now, you'd think I was a prisoner of war, not a 17-year-old girl in a nice, suburban neighborhood. My parents have turned our home into a psychological panopticon, and I am officially done. I've been a ghost in this house since November. I don't speak to them, I don't look at them, and I don't participate in their family theater anymore. They tell me I'm the asshole for destroying the family peace, but you can't destroy something that was built on a foundation of control and conditional love. Before I get into the heavy stuff, I want to address the nice things. My parents love to use money as a shield. We went on vacations to Europe, I had a nice wardrobe, and they paid for every activity under the sun. But I realized early on that these weren't gifts. They were investments in a brand. I was put into over 15 different sports and activities. Dance, soccer, swimming, gymnastics, you name it. I remember being 10 years old, sitting in the back of the SUV, crying because my shins hurt so bad from soccer and I just wanted to go home and read. My mom wouldn't even turn around. She just said, "We already paid for the season, and it would look bad if you quit now." That was the theme. How does it look? My interest, my exhaustion, and my physical pain were irrelevant. I was a prop meant to be moved from one high-achieving setting to another so they could talk about it at dinner parties. If you haven't heard of Custodio, imagine an app that allows another person to have total remote control over your brain's access to the outside world. They installed it on my phone and my school laptop. It's not just a filter, it's a kill switch. If I made a joke at the dinner table that my dad didn't find funny, something as small as a sarcastic comment about the weather, he wouldn't argue. He wouldn't even look at me. He'd just pull out his phone, tap a button, and my world would go dark. Suddenly, my phone is a brick. My laptop, which I need for my AP classes, displays a gray screen. Your parents have paused your device. I've spent countless nights sitting at my desk, staring at a blank screen, unable to do my history research or submit a math assignment because my dad was on a power trip because I didn't say thank you with enough enthusiasm for a dinner I didn't want. The worst part is the isolation. They use digital disconnection as a form of solitary confinement. If I displeased them, the shutdown stays on for days. I can't text my friends to tell them why I'm not responding. I can't listen to music to calm my anxiety. I am just silenced. From the age of 8 until I was 15, there was a camera mounted in the corner of my bedroom. They told me it was for safety and to make sure I was sleeping. Imagine being a teenage girl, going through puberty, and knowing that your father has a live feed of your bed on his phone at all times. If I sat up at 11 p.m. to finish a book, the voice would come through the camera speaker, "Lie down and go to sleep, name." Or worse, he'd stomp up the stairs, throw my door open, and scream at me for defying his sleep schedule. I learned to change my clothes in the tiny sliver of space behind my closet door where the camera couldn't see. I learned to cry silently, face down in my pillow, because if the camera saw my shoulders shaking, it would trigger a welfare check that was really just a lecture about how my emotions were making the household stressful for them. The power trip of needing to watch a child sleep is a level of obsession I will never forget. My dad and I have been on rocky terms since the 7th grade. That was the year I started asking why. To him, why is an act of war. He believes in a total hierarchy. He is the parent, therefore he is the law. One afternoon, my 13-year-old brother was having a rough time. He was frustrated with a project and stormed upstairs to his room. My dad sat on the couch and ignored it for a while, then suddenly decided he wanted my brother to come down and set the table. He started yelling his name from the bottom of the stairs. I was in the kitchen and said, "He's probably sleeping, he was really stressed. You should probably just go up and check on him first." My dad turned to me, face turning that specific shade of purple it gets when he's losing control, and roared, "Nobody was talking to you. Shut your mouth and stay out of things that don't concern you." He didn't want my brother to set the table, he wanted to see my brother jump when he barked. Last year, my mental health was at an all-time low. I felt like I was drowning in my own life. I did some research and read that changing your environment can help clear your mind. I went to my dad with a plan. "I want to move my room around," I told him. "I'll use the money from my job to buy a new bed frame and desk that fit better. I just need your help moving the heavy stuff." He shut it down instantly. "No. We bought that furniture. It stays where it is. You don't get to change things in my house." Fast forward 6 months. My dad decides he wants to redecorate. He replaces the living room sets, the dining table, the chandeliers. Then, he comes into my room while I'm at school and removes my old, comfortable wooden nightstands. He replaces them with these sharp, modern glass end tables. I'm clumsy. I have ADHD. I told him I hated the glass. I've literally cut my arms and legs on the corners of these things 10 times now. He didn't consult me. He didn't care that I'd offered to pay for my own furniture. He wanted his aesthetic preserved, and I was just the occupant of a room he curated. I ended up buying my own desk and building it in secret, alone, in the middle of the night. It took me 6 hours and I cried the whole time because I felt so unwanted in my own space. The favoritism isn't even subtle anymore. My brother, who is 13, is the golden child. He's figured out that if he kisses their asses and pretends to be the perfect son, he gets whatever he wants. In September, he got a $1,000 gaming PC as an early Christmas gift. He uses it for Roblox. When I mentioned how lopsided that was, my mom promised he wouldn't get anything else for the holidays. Christmas morning came. He had a mountain of gifts. I had a pair of shoes that were 2 sizes too small and a deck of Uno cards. For my 16th birthday, the sweet 16 everyone talks about, I asked for a party. We can't afford it, my mom said. I settled for a small paint night at a pub. They bought me a cake from Fortino's that didn't even have my age on it. It just said, "Happy birthday." It felt like a placeholder. But for my brother's 12th birthday in July? We flew to Sweden. We went to a world-famous amusement park. The "we can't afford it" narrative only seems to apply when I'm the one asking. For my last birthday, I asked for one thing. Just one. Flowers. I have never received a bouquet of flowers in my 17 years. Instead, they got me a pair of expensive headphones. It sounds ungrateful to complain about headphones, but it's the fact that they disregarded the one simple, emotional request I had. They wanted to buy something they could show off, not something that would actually make me feel seen. This past Christmas was when I officially checked out. My mom forgot I liked Toblerone. She bought a bar for every single person at the party except me. Then there's the ornament tradition. Every year, we go out as a family and pick an ornament that represents our year. This year, they went without me. They also went Christmas tree shopping without me. I came home from work to find the house fully decorated, the tree up, and my tradition broken. There is number 2025 ornament for me. If you walk through the downstairs of our house, there are framed photos of my brother's soccer games, my parents' wedding, and family trips. There are 0 photos of me. I am 17 years old and I have been effectively removed from the family gallery. I feel like a nonverbal roommate who just pays rent in chores and silence. My mom isn't as loud as my dad, but her silence is worse. She's an enabler. She watches him put the shutdown on my school laptop and she just looks away. When I decided to stop charging my phone downstairs, because I've struggled with suicidal ideation and the thought of being alone in my room at night with no way to call a helpline or a friend was terrifying, they didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't have a conversation. They just put the shutdown on during school hours. I was at school with a dead phone for 3 days. I couldn't call home for a ride, couldn't check my schedule, nothing. So, I deleted the app. I bypassed their security. They responded by putting on Apple Screen Time and locking every single app, including my photos. My phone is now a $1,000 paperweight. That's why my friend gave me a burner. It's the only way I can talk to the people who actually care about me. I haven't spoken a meaningful word to them since November. I spend every second I'm not at school or work in my room. I eat my meals there. I study there. I exist there. My brother is a good kid, but I can see him transforming into them. When we're alone, he admits they're a lot, but the second they walk in, he's their little soldier. He's chosen his side. People tell me, but they're your parents. They take you on vacation. A vacation isn't love. A PC isn't parenting. I am done trying to fix a relationship where the only way to be loved is to be a puppet. I'm counting down the months until I turn 18. I have a bag packed under my bed. Am I the a-hole for refusing to fix this? For deciding that my parents are just people I happen to live with until I can legally disappear? Update. I didn't expect my last post to get as much attention as it did. I honestly thought maybe a handful of people would read it, tell me I was dramatic, and that would be the end of it. Instead, thousands of strangers seemed to understand things I had never been able to explain out loud. Reading through the responses felt strange at first. A lot of people used words I'd never applied to my life before. Controlling. Surveillance. Emotional neglect. Some even called it abuse. I'm still not sure how I feel about that word, but I can't pretend anymore that what happens in this house is normal. Nothing exploded immediately after I posted. There wasn't some cinematic confrontation or sudden realization from my parents. Life here rarely works like that. The tension just kept stretching tighter, like something waiting to snap. The silence between us has become its own routine now. They move around me like I'm inconvenient furniture. I move around them like stepping too close might trigger something unpredictable. What has changed is that they've noticed I'm different. Not louder or angrier. Quieter in a way that isn't temporary. I stopped reacting. That seems to bother them more than anything I've ever said. My dad tried, at first, to provoke a reaction. He would make small comments meant to hook me emotionally, remarks about respect, about attitude, about how teenagers today don't understand sacrifice. Normally I would have defended myself or argued until I was shaking. Now I just walk past. The first time I didn't respond, he followed me upstairs, clearly expecting a fight that never came. He stood in the doorway waiting for me to engage, but I just kept organizing my school bag like he wasn't there. Eventually he left, slamming the door harder than necessary. Since then, the punishments have become quieter too. Less yelling, more control. My devices are still restricted, but now the shutdown happens randomly, almost experimentally, like he's testing whether I'll break silence to complain. I don't. I've learned to work around it. I stay late at school to finish assignments. Teachers assume I'm just dedicated. In reality, it's the only place where my access to the outside world isn't controlled by someone else's mood. The burner phone has become my lifeline, and hiding it has turned into a strange ritual. I never realized how hyper-aware someone can become of footsteps until now. Every sound in the hallway registers immediately. I've gotten good at sliding it back into the hollowed textbook without looking suspicious. Living like this would probably sound dramatic to someone on the outside, but when control becomes normal, secrecy becomes survival. One thing I didn't anticipate was how exhausting emotional detachment is. Silence sounds peaceful in theory, but it takes constant effort not to react when someone talks about you like you're standing 3 feet away. My parents have started discussing me openly at dinner again, assuming I won't engage. They talk about my phase, about how I'm influenced by friends, about how teenagers invent problems when their lives are too easy. Hearing your reality rewritten in real time does something strange to your brain. For a moment, you almost wonder if they're right. Then you remember the camera in your bedroom and the doubt disappears. Yes, the camera is still there. That hasn't changed. I asked once, years ago, when it would be removed. The answer was always vague: someday, when trust improved, when I proved responsibility, when I was older. Apparently 17 is still not old enough to deserve privacy. I've stopped asking. Asking implies negotiation, and negotiation implies I still believe compromise is possible. What has shifted recently is my understanding of my mom's role in all of this. Growing up, I told myself she was stuck, that she was quieter because she was trying to keep peace. Now I see something else. She adapts to whatever maintains stability for her. When my dad escalates, she withdraws. When he calms down, she acts like nothing happened. She checks in with me indirectly, asking if I finished homework or if I need laundry done, but never about how I'm actually doing. It feels less like indifference and more like avoidance. Acknowledging my reality would require confronting his behavior, and that seems to be a line she refuses to cross. There was one moment recently that made something inside me finally settle. Not explode, just settle. I came home from work earlier than expected and walked into the living room while they were talking with relatives on speakerphone. I heard my dad laughing while describing me as difficult but sensitive, the way people talk about a malfunctioning appliance they're learning to manage. My mom added that I've always been emotional and that they've given me every opportunity. They spoke about me like a project that failed despite proper investment. I stood there long enough for them to notice me, and neither of them stopped talking right away. That was the moment I realized something important: they genuinely believe their version of events. There isn't some hidden awareness waiting to emerge. In their minds, they are good parents dealing with an ungrateful child. That realization hurt less than expected. It actually made things clearer. You can't convince someone to see harm they don't believe exists. School has become my refuge in ways I didn't expect. Teachers have started noticing I stay late almost every day. One asked if everything was okay at home. I almost said yes automatically, but the word got stuck. I didn't tell her everything, just that home is stressful and I focus better at school. She didn't push, just told me the library stays open if I ever need somewhere quiet. That small kindness hit harder than any lecture about gratitude I've heard at home. I've also started saving more aggressively. Every paycheck from work goes into an account my parents don't monitor. I learned quickly not to leave physical evidence lying around. Receipts disappear. Cash tips get hidden immediately. Planning for independence feels both terrifying and calming. For the first time, my future feels like something I might control instead of something arranged for appearances. My relationship with my brother has become complicated. He isn't cruel. He still jokes with me when our parents aren't around, still vents about school, still asks for help with homework. But there's a distance now. He watches how I behave carefully, like he's studying what happens when someone stops complying. I can see him choosing safety. I don't blame him. He's 13. Survival looks different when you're younger. Sometimes I wonder if he'll remember things differently when he's older. Maybe he'll believe the house was normal because it worked for him. Maybe I'll become the dramatic older sibling in family stories. That thought used to make me angry. Now it mostly makes me tired. The favoritism hasn't changed, but I react differently to it. My brother recently got another expensive upgrade for his gaming setup. I noticed it, registered the unfairness, and then felt nothing. The absence of jealousy surprised me. It was like watching something happen in another family's home. Emotional distance has turned their decisions into background noise. The holidays passed quietly this time. I worked extra shifts and stayed in my room when I was home. There were decorations, music, relatives visiting, laughter downstairs. I existed parallel to it all. At one point I realized hours had passed without anyone checking whether I'd eaten. That used to devastate me. Now it just confirmed what I already knew: my presence isn't necessary for the family dynamic to function. Oddly, that realization gave me relief. If I'm not essential to their version of family, leaving won't destroy anything. It will just remove a problem they already believe exists. The countdown to 18 feels both fast and impossibly slow. Some days I feel strong, certain I can endure a few more months. Other days the walls feel closer, the surveillance heavier, and I catch myself imagining what freedom might feel like in small details: choosing when to sleep, charging my phone without permission, closing a door without wondering who might be watching. I don't hate my parents. That's something people misunderstand. Hatred would mean emotional investment. What I feel now is closer to detachment mixed with grief for something that never really existed. I used to believe if I explained myself perfectly, behaved correctly, achieved enough, they would finally see me as a person instead of a reflection of their expectations. Letting go of that belief feels like mourning. Recently my dad asked why I've become so quiet. Not angrily, almost confused. I shrugged and said I was busy with school. He looked unsettled, like he preferred arguments because arguments meant engagement. Silence leaves him without control points. I think that's why I don't plan to confront them before I leave. People online suggested therapy conversations, mediated discussions, family meetings. Those ideas assume mutual willingness to reflect. Nothing in my experience suggests that would happen here. A confrontation would only become another performance about respect and obedience. So my plan remains simple. Graduate. Turn 18. Leave. I've researched housing options, part-time college programs, shared rentals. My friend's family has quietly told me their couch is available if I ever need a transition period. Knowing there's somewhere I can land makes the future feel real instead of imaginary. The strangest part is realizing how calm I feel about disappearing. Months ago I worried I was being cruel for emotionally withdrawing. Now I see it differently. Silence isn't punishment. It's protection. Every attempt I made to fix things required shrinking myself to fit expectations that kept changing anyway. I still have moments of doubt late at night. Thoughts creep in asking whether I'll regret leaving, whether distance will feel worse than control, whether adulthood will be harder than I imagine. But then I remember sitting at my desk staring at a disabled laptop because someone else decided I hadn't earned access to my own life that day. I remember changing clothes in blind spots to avoid being watched. Those memories anchor me. Nothing dramatic has happened since my last post. No apologies. No breakthroughs. Just clarity growing slowly, day by day. I don't know if refusing to fix this makes me a bad daughter. What I do know is that relationships can't be repaired by one person alone, and staying emotionally available to people who only value compliance was destroying me long before I stopped speaking.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.